Another day, another story. D.B. Cooper is the pseudonym used for an unidentified individual who, in 1971, hijacked a commercial airplane, extorted a ransom, and parachuted from the aircraft, disappearing without a trace. The case remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in U.S. criminal history. Welcome to Taboo Eminent Channel. On November 24, 1971, a man using the name Dan Cooper, later mistakenly reported as D.B. Cooper, boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, a Boeing 727, in Portland, Oregon. During the flight, he handed a note to a flight attendant claiming to have a bomb and demanding $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. After receiving the ransom and parachutes during a stop in Seattle, Cooper released the passengers at his request. He then instructed the remaining crew members to fly the plane to a specific route and altitude, where he opened a rear stairway door and parachuted into the night. Despite an extensive manhunt and investigation, Cooper's true identity and whereabouts have never been definitively determined, and the majority of the ransom money has never been recovered. The case has inspired numerous theories, books, documentaries, and media portrayals. Despite the passage of time, D.B. Cooper remains an enigmatic figure and a subject of intrigue for many people interested in unsolved mysteries and true crime. Vanishing Act. It was a dark and stormy night in November 1971 when Dan Cooper, a tall and mysterious figure, walked into a quiet airport in Portland, Oregon. Clad in a dark suit and a fedora pulled low over his brow, he exuded an air of confidence and intrigue. As he approached the counter of Northwest Orient Airlines, he handed a note to the startled flight attendant. "Read it quietly. I have a bomb, and I want $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes." Cooper, the note read. Panic and tension filled the cabin of Flight 305 as Cooper's demands were met. The passengers, unaware of the gravity of the situation, were ushered off the plane, leaving only the crew and Cooper on board. As the plane took off again, Cooper coolly instructed the pilot to follow a specific flight path and altitude. As the plane droned through the night sky, Cooper exchanged brief but cryptic conversations with the crew, revealing hints of a complex backstory and a motive that remained elusive. He spoke of dreams unfulfilled and a desire for a fresh start. "Money can't buy happiness, but it can buy freedom," Cooper mused, his eyes gazing out into the darkness. After receiving the ransom and parachutes in Seattle, Cooper made a calculated move. With a calm demeanor, he opened the rear stairway door, revealing the howling winds outside. The rain lashed against the plane, and the sound of the engines roared in his ears as he prepared to make his escape. With a final nod to the crew, Cooper leapt into the night. The rush of the wind and the pounding rain were deafening as he plummeted toward the earth. The ground rushed up to meet him, and he pulled the ripcord, feeling the sudden jerk as the parachute deployed. Cooper landed in a remote forest, his heart pounding with a mix of exhilaration and uncertainty. He quickly buried the parachutes and the ransom money, leaving only a trail of enigmatic footprints. As dawn broke, he vanished into the wilderness, becoming a ghost of history. The years passed, and the legend of D.B. Cooper grew. Some claimed to have seen him, while others speculated on his fate. Was he a master criminal who orchestrated the perfect heist, or a troubled soul seeking an escape from a life of monotony? The mystery remained, an unsolved puzzle that captured the imagination of those who dared to ponder the enigma of D.B. Cooper. Fading echoes. The year was 1971, and the sky was overcast as Flight 305 prepared to take off from Portland International Airport. Among the passengers was a man named David Brennan, an unassuming artist with a penchant for adventure. Little did anyone know that this unassuming man would soon become intertwined with one of the greatest mysteries in American history. As the flight cruised through the skies, Brennan found himself struck by the monotony of life. He yearned for something more, something that would break the chains of routine that bound him. An idea began to form, a daring plan that seemed like it was lifted from the pages of a thriller novel. Approaching the flight attendant with a note, Brennan's heart raced as he handed it over. "This is not a joke. I have a bomb. I want $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes," the note read. As the tense negotiations unfolded, Brennan's mind raced. He had no intention of harming anyone, but he needed a way to disappear, to shed his identity like a snake shedding its skin. The flight attendant returned with the money and parachutes, and Brennan's heart pounded in his chest. With the passengers safely evacuated, Brennan's voice crackled over the intercom, his voice a mix of nervousness and resolve. He directed the crew to a specific course, all the while wondering if he was making a terrible mistake. The turbulence of the storm outside mirrored the turmoil in his mind. As the plane reached the designated altitude, Brennan made his move. He opened the rear stairway door, the rush of wind and rain hitting him like a tidal wave. With a deep breath, he jumped into the void, the sensation of freefall unlike anything he had ever experienced. The parachute deployed, and Brennan floated down to a remote wilderness area. He quickly buried the money and parachutes, leaving behind a few traces of his presence before disappearing into the woods. He knew he had to leave behind his old life and forge a new path, a path that was as uncertain as the future itself. Years later, a hiker stumbled upon the buried treasure, setting off a frenzy of speculation and theories. But David Brennan had vanished into obscurity, his true fate known only to him and the winds that carried him away. As time marched on, the legend of D.B. Cooper grew, the mystery of his identity and whereabouts becoming a subject of fascination for generations. Was he a criminal mastermind or a desperate soul seeking a fresh start? The answer remained elusive, an echo of a man who had vanished into the pages of history. Skyward Gambit. In the autumn of 1971, the world was changing, and so was Michael Donovan's life. A disillusioned former CIA operative turned disillusioned private investigator, Donovan found himself entangled in a web of intrigue that would test his skills to the limit. One rainy evening, Donovan received an anonymous tip that led him to a smoky diner on the outskirts of Portland. There, he met a mysterious figure who introduced himself only as Cooper. Cooper, a man with a magnetic charm and a wry smile, revealed a daring plan that would forever change both their lives. "I've got a proposal for you," Cooper said, his eyes gleaming with a mix of excitement and desperation. "I'm going to hijack a plane, extort a ransom, and vanish into thin air. But I need someone to make sure my disappearance sticks." Donovan's curiosity was piqued. He had grown weary of mundane investigations, and the prospect of being a part of something larger, even if it meant crossing legal boundaries, was too tempting to resist. As the plan unfolded, Donovan's role became clear. He was to ensure that the aftermath of the daring heist was shrouded in enough mystery to deter thorough investigations. His connections and skills would be the key to creating a puzzle that law enforcement couldn't easily solve. The night of the hijacking arrived, and Flight 305 was soon embroiled in chaos. Donovan watched from the shadows as Cooper negotiated with the flight crew and made his dramatic escape. With a sly smile, Donovan slipped away, leaving behind carefully placed clues and false trails that would confound even the most seasoned detectives. In the days that followed, Donovan's intricate web of deception began to take shape. Anonymous tips, forged evidence, and misleading testimonies painted a picture that was as confusing as it was captivating. The media frenzy grew, and theories about Cooper's fate spread like wildfire. Years passed, and Donovan watched from the shadows as the legend of D.B. Cooper grew. He had played his part well, ensuring that the enigmatic figure's disappearance remained an unsolvable riddle. As he reflected on his role in the elaborate scheme, Donovan couldn't help but feel a mixture of pride and regret. The legacy of D.B. Cooper lived on, a testament to the audacity of those willing to challenge the status quo. Donovan knew that he had been a pawn in a game that transcended ordinary notions of right and wrong. And as he disappeared into the annals of history, he couldn't help but wonder if he had been the hero, the villain, or something else entirely. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.